We also watched AEW Dynamite, July 22nd, 2020. It's an open challenge for the TNT Championship to open the show. Cody doesn't even get an entrance this week. He's just in the ring. And he is introduced, but then who should interrupt the introduction but Eddie fucking Kingston. And Eddie comes out to speak his mind. And oh, he had a lot to say. Calls Arn a used-to-be legend, says, Cody, you grew up around legends. I grew up around alcoholics. I grew up around junkies. I had to fight to survive. You couldn't last a day in my shoes, so don't talk to me about grinding. Every person you have faced for this TNT title has been a child. I am a grown-ass man, and I will put you in the ground and smile. Tony Khan paid me to show up, and now he's going to pay me to kick your ass and take your championship. I told him I want a no DQ match. He said, that's fine, but Cody has to accept. So what's it going to be, Cody? Are you an egg-sucking dog or an egg-sucking bitch? Kingston was on fire here. Just on fire. So Cody accepts, and oh my God, what an awesome match. There was hardly any spots in this match. They had like one for the heat and one or two the comeback and a finish, but they just got in there and they fought each other. And they're chopping the piss out of each other. They're whipping each other with the weight belt and it's no DQ. And Kingston takes over, and here's where I thought to myself, this is the difference between methodical and slow. Kingston wasn't doing a million moves an hour, and he didn't have complicated, elaborate 27-step spots. He would just hit him and stomp him and choke him, take a break, catch his breath, then go back to hitting and stomping him, choking him again. It was fantastic. So he can't put Cody away. Cody makes a brief comeback, and he's able to cut him off and says, okay, enough of this bullshit. And he goes under the ring and he gets the thumbtacks. Pours them out all over the ring. There's several teases actually of going into this pile of tacks. And then finally, Eddie grabs Cody, lifts him up, and he power bombs this son of a plumber into these tacks. They're all over Cody's boots, all over his back, all over his arms. There's tacks everywhere. And there's a close up in HD, and there were puncture wounds all over Cody Rhodes' back. But then Cody makes a comeback. They start taking bumps. By this point, there's just tacks all over the ring. Tacks won't stay in one spot. When the ring bounces, they go everywhere. So there's fighting and piles of tacks all over the ring. Cody is going for a figure four. Eddie's trying to fight it off. They have an epic slap fight over this figure four. Finally, Cody wins the slap fight. He gets the hold on. Eddie must submit. Except for the Cody versus Dustin match at, was it Double or Nothing? Whichever one that was. This was like my favorite Cody Rhodes match ever. This is just fantastic.
This match was awesome. You didn't even talk about the most important part. So first off, very early in the match, Eddie starts selling his knee. And there's no spot. He starts selling his knee.
Yeah.
And he did such a great fucking job selling his knee that I was sure that he was fucked. Oh, man, he's finally getting his big shot. After all these years, he fucks up his knee 2 minutes into the match.
Yes.
And he's selling and he's selling. But in the end, it was to set up the figure four leg lock in the tacks. Whole point of selling his leg. And in the promo, he made it very clear that you talk about grinding and living this rough life, all that stuff. It's easy to say when you grew up around used-to-be legends like Arn Anderson. I grew up around alcoholics, junkies. I had to survive. I had to grind. You couldn't last a day in my shoes. That was the perfect fucking setup for Cody being the one that got powerbombed into the tacks.
That's true.
This guy that allegedly had such a soft, cush life, he's the guy that fucking gets powerbombed into these tacks. But he pops up and he fights back, and he's the one that beats the shit out of Eddie Kingston and finally forces him to give up in the middle of a pile of thumbtacks.
Yes.
This goddamn match, everything about it, the promo, the work. When Eddie fucking Kingston hurt his leg, he didn't run and jump and flip and do a bunch of fucking shit because he had a bad fucking leg and he could barely do anything. And it played into the match, but he could still be a brawler. He could still beat the shit out of this guy. I loved this match. I can't even tell you how much I love this match. I love the promo. I love the match. I love the finish. I love the promo that Eddie cut afterwards. As of last night, he had not been signed yet.
I find that impossible to believe.
It's true.
He was the best guy on this show.
I presume he's going to be signed. But fuck, sign Eddie Kingston already. Jesus God almighty. This is awesome.
So yeah, giant flaming thumbs up for this. I can't say enough good things about it. Tonight on AEW Dynamite, Young Bucks versus Butcher and the Blade, Falls Count Anywhere. Hangman Page versus 5 of the Dark Order. Ivelisse versus Diamante in both women's debut. MJF in action. And in your main event, the Jurassic Express versus Chris Jericho and Jake Hager. We have a Moxley promo. Like all Moxley promos, it's out of this world fantastic.
This was fucking great.
If I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I told you I was going to tear Cage's bicep in two. Taz, you are the manager of the year. Because you saved that, man. I love that feeling of ligaments and tendon snapping. And you were this close, Brian Cage, to 9 months of the good painkillers. But Taz made the right call. But Cage, next time, I'm not going to let go.
He actually started the promo saying, what you see with me is what you get. And I've met a lot of people in pro wrestling the last 30 years, and he is very near the top of the list. What you see is what you get with Jon Moxley.
I believe that 100%.
It was a great promo.
MJF came out to wrestle what appeared to be Lenny Lane. It was, in fact, Griff Garrison, which may be an even worse name. So MJF goes to interview this man, actually, before the match. Says he looks great, he's all tan, he seems a little nervous, but I am a prodigy with a heart of gold. I'm going to give you a chance to talk about Jungle Man. And Griff says, this was, in fact, his first word. And I'm sure that was planned, but it was funny. Says, that's not my name. My name is Griff Garrison. They go back and forth. Apparently, this guy, his gimmick is that he's an Ivy League MVP, which is something. And finally, MJF says, why don't you tell everyone how cool it is to share the ring with somebody undefeated like me? And Griff Garrison says, didn't you lose a tag match at Fyter Fest? And so MJF clubbers him, and the match is on. I was very much enjoying this. They went to a break. I was very upset. Don't go to a break during MJF matches. I like watching him. So during the match, as MJF is destroying this man, he grabs a microphone and says, we got off on the wrong foot. The fact is, I've never been pinned or submitted. That means I'm undefeated. Tell people I'm undefeated. And for several minutes, he is torturing and bullying young Griff Garrison, trying to get him to say he's undefeated. Finally, Griff does, but then immediately hits a cradle for a 2 count. This makes MJF even more mad. He destroys him more, puts him away with a heat seeker. I love MJF so much. I love this segment. I love this promo. I love this match. And this is important because while MJF has clearly established himself as a funny but loud and arrogant and obnoxious character, sometimes we need to be reminded he's also very, very dangerous.
And a dick.
Well, he's always a dick. He's a dick week in and week out. The key is he also needs to be someone who, if you get in his bad side, he will ruin your life.
Well, sure, but what I'm
physically.
saying is, like, he's a dick, but, you know, he's making fun of people, he's cutting promos, he's burying them. This was being an asshole. Demanding this guy tell him that he's undefeated, stomping on his fingers, just being a cock. Like, this was good stuff. I loved it. And yes, I disagree with Dave last night that feels that they should have done more to protect Griff Garrison. No.
Not for 1 second did that occur to me.
You can do that. You can do that down the road. Griff Garrison was here to be killed, and he was.
Okay. Tony has an update on Dr. Baker's nose surgery. His first question is actually a good one. He's trying to clarify whether Britt's assistant is named Reba or Rebel. But before they can, Britt calls them into her locker room, I suppose.
You can see that she's about to explain that her name is actually Rebel. But before she can spit it out, you hear, Reba!
Yes.
She goes.
She goes?
Yeah, she goes.
I see.
They go in there.
I see.
Yes. I was waiting for you, Vinny. I was going to
She
wait as
goes.
long as I needed. I would have had an hour of empty dead air there.
Well, now I'm sad.
Yes.
I could have had a much
That was
easier
up to
evening.
you.
Is it too late? Do I have to talk now? Or
Yes. The ball is in your court, Vinny.
all right. So in April,
Coincidentally, I might add.
Britt explains Hikaru Shida violently busted her nose, but she was back the following week. Then she was repaid by having her nose targeted. They did, by the way, show clips of Britt's actual nasal surgery. That was fun.
Yeah, so what happened was she actually got her nose broken, and so they had to do surgery to repair it. That is what happened.
Yeah. So she says, rule number 4 is never count out a role model. She is set to make the biggest comeback of all time. Like Tiger in the 2019 Masters. Like Rocky beating Ivan Drago in Rocky IV. Like Michael Jordan returning to play basketball with the Washington Wizards. Antonia tries to point out that Michael's tenure with the Wizards wasn't very good. And Reba starts talking about Space Jam. And finally, Britt counts them off and says, I am Michael Jordan. Do not count me out, particularly at All Out.
I liked it.
It was fun. It was fun. We have clips of Moxley beating Cage. I guess it was last week. And then Darby Allin making his big return. And then, lo and behold, clips from AEW Dark.
Yes.
Something happened on Dark, and they didn't assume I knew. They didn't just tell me I knew. They didn't just put it in a crawl on the bottom of the screen. They showed me in graphic detail what happened on Dark.
You know what's funny about this? They finally show us something that happened on Dark, and
they did
they
the same
actually didn't need to because they were going to shoot the same angle on Dynamite.
Hey, I'm not going to complain.
Yes.
I've been saying for months, they just show me when something important happens on Dark,
Hey, listen.
and they did.
You know what pleased me was they did, in fact, I'm not saying this was my idea. I come up with ideas because I think it's what makes sense, and they ended up doing what totally made sense, which was Taz did the promo.
Yes, they did exactly what you said. Like, word for word, you could have written this promo. By the way, what happened on Dark was Ricky Starks has joined Team Taz, and he and Brian Cage laid out Darby Allin.
So Taz says, we had a difficult week, and to be honest with you, there were heated arguments. Brian Cage, pretty close to firing me, but cooler heads prevailed. I explained to him why I threw in that towel last week, and the reason I did it was a business decision. I know that Moxley has a badass armbar. He had a badass armbar on that surgically repaired biceps. I've had my biceps torn twice. I was not going to let that happen to Brian Cage. Brian Cage did not tap. He will never be in that position again. He didn't tap. He'll never tap. He's not wired to tap. That's why he's the FTW champion, because he has the FTW mindset. No quit, no surrender. Boom!
That is like word for word what you said.
And then Darby starts to come down to the ring. And Ricky Starks, very excited with his new job. Very excited he's now in a new stable. He runs out and he fucking runs Darby over.
Dude.
It was like he got hit by a fucking train.
It's worse.
He goes right into the top rope.
Oh,
I had fucking, I wouldn't even say what I had flashbacks to, but he goes down. I'm like, dude, is he dead? And Cage, and they go after him and they beat the shit out of him. And apparently, like, he was alive, but he was concussed.
Yeah?
I guess we'll see if he makes it for next week's show. But what in the fuck? I love Ricky Starks, but what in the fuck was that guy thinking? You can't hit somebody this hard from behind when they can't fucking see you coming. That was crazy.
This looked probably even more violent than when Rey Fenix kicked Orange Cassidy in the head. Because
Oh yeah, this was much worse than when Orange Cassidy got kicked, because he got kicked and he just went into the air.
yes.
Darby got kicked into metal ropes.
Into the ropes. He went through them like a cheese grater. Various parts of his body bent the way they're not supposed to do. Of all the things they did next to him, powerbombing him on the ramp, throwing him into the ring, Starks is something like a Dominator. Child's play. Absolute child's play compared to the first shot into the back, sending him at every possible bad angle into those ropes.
Dude, if I ever interview Darby again, the first question is going to be, have you ever had a skateboarding accident as bad as what happened to you when Ricky Starks attacked you from behind? Because I can't imagine that happening.
So Moxley then makes the save with a barbed wire bat. And putting aside the fact that this is the most brutal thing to ever happen to Darby Allin and think of the ground that covers, fantastic segment. Taz is great. Darby's great, and the beating was there, and Moxley saved. Everyone was great here. They're going to do a women's tag team cup tournament. It is called the Deadly Draw. I hope that doesn't mean random teams. I hope it just means random pairings. But they did not actually announce any teams. I assume this is all being done to do something with the Nightmare Sisters, since there's no women's tag team titles, nor should there be women's tag team titles. But you need something to do as a tag team, and so it'll be this tournament one way or another. Alex Marvez interviews the Inner Circle, including Chris Jericho, who is wearing a jacket that was once white, is now stained orange. It cost him $7,000 and is ruined because of Orange Cassidy. So I'm going to ruin his career. He wants to embarrass me, I'm going to embarrass him. And we are going to embarrass the Jurassic Express. They were laughing at me last week, calling me an idiot. You know what makes me laugh? Marco Stunt's mutated bulbous head. Jungle Boy's sideburns, straight out of a 70s stag film. And Luchasaurus, sorry kiddies, he's not really a dinosaur. Tonight, though, we will make him extinct. Ha 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 ha. And he stops, and he turns, I think, to Santana and whispers, "Do I still smell like orange juice?" And Santana sniffs his jacket and says, "Yeah." And Jericho says, "Damn it!"
I laughed heartily.
And he walks off. And Hager says, "Why'd you tell him that?" And Santana says, "I couldn't lie to him." Yeah, the Inner Circle's still gold. The Inner Circle is still gold.
I like the idea that Jericho is drenched with like 35 gallons of orange juice, and he's upset that he still smells like orange juice like 10 minutes later, because this was last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He could have washed this thing several times. The Young Bucks have a match.
No, this was taped last week.
I see.
I'm pointing out, like, why did he think he wouldn't smell like orange juice after 10 minutes?
I don't know. I don't have
You're
an
going to
answer
smell
to
like
that one.
orange juice for months, dude.
Yes, yes. So the Young Bucks have a Falls Count Anywhere match with Butcher and Blade and decide they want to have this match right now. So they go to the kitchen where Butcher and Blade are, in fact, butchering and blading.
Yeah.
And they say, "We want to have this match right now."
So listen, I know that the Butcher is a butcher, but is the Blade also supposed to be a butcher? But he's
I
just
guess.
called the Blade?
The two of them were working over steaks.
Huh. How about that?
Perhaps the blade slices them and the butcher prepares them. I don't know. So, regardless, they're working with piles of raw meat. And so the Bucks come in and say, "We want to start our match right now." Butcher and Blade say, "Okay, let us wash up." And the Young Bucks patiently, wisely wait for their opponents to go wash their hands.
Well, that's the key. Wisely. If you've been handling raw meat, you don't want somebody touching you with them hands.
No.
Fish hooking you and shit like that.
No.
Bad times.
Now, they did immediately start wrestling all over the meat and throwing it at each other. So it kind of defeated the purpose. But I will say this. I would much rather wrestle with raw beef than raw chicken, like we saw Terry Funk do on Nitro. Or at least once. So the first half of this match is so much fun. They're in the
Dude,
kitchen.
both halves of this match were so much fun. What wasn't fun about this match?
Well,
Except two guys almost dying.
Let me talk about the first half. So they're in the kitchen. They're fighting back there. They got carts and platforms they're slamming each other on and trying to get pinfalls. They go outside the kitchen. They're in the concourse area, and they lay the Bucks up against a big, giant, like a 6-foot concrete pillar, 6 foot wide. And they put the Blade on a cart and try to push him into the pillar. But the Bucks dodge, and the Blade goes flying into the pillar. They go over to a big giant truck where the Bucks go flying into pictures of their own faces. Matt is thrown into the truck, wherein we see a sign advertising Mud Show Tonight. That was funny. And then Matt does a run. He goes all the way to the front of the trailer, of a big semi-trailer, and then runs all the way back right at the camera to do a big running flip dive. It's just awesome. Butcher is leg dropped onto a table, and they go over to the escalators where the Blade is super kicked. He falls in the escalators. He's going up the escalators as we go to break. So we come back from break. They're now at ringside. And to make a long story short, this just felt like every hardcore match I've seen on every episode of Retro Raw for months now. Maybe years. Now, if you have not been watching Retro Raw along with us, you probably thought this was pretty fun and cool and different. But the Butcher makes his own comeback against both Bucks. Even though then Blade shows up right after he makes his own comeback. They couldn't just had Blade come save him. So the Bucks are absolutely destroying themselves. They're taking incredibly stupid bumps, flying around and landing on the floor. The Blade goes for a dive. He misses the Bucks. He misses the table. He misses everything. They go up on top of the stage, the ramp. They're flying around doing bumps.
Apparently,
up
when
there.
that Blade missed that dive and landed, he just fucking landed right on his ass. Just brutal. I thought it was another Johnny the Bull.
Yeah.
And, of course, the show's not live. So, apparently, the Blade wanted to retape it because he wasn't supposed to miss the table.
Yes. Yeah.
Wasn't supposed to land on his ass. And, they basically told him no and kept working. Yeah. And, I understand if you want to go through the table and you miss, maybe you feel a little embarrassed or whatever, but fuck. If I flew over the top rope and I land on my fucking ass like that guy did, like, I would not want to do it again. I mean, chances are you'd go through the table right the second time, but I'd want them to replay me going over the top and landing on my ass on the cement like 55 times to at least make it worthwhile.
Sure. So eventually they go up on stage, and the Butcher and Blade are laid on tables by either entranceway. And the Bucks climb up on top of the tables. They're like 30 feet apart. We go to a very, very, very wide shot to see two tiny little Bucks on either border of the screen jump off and fly through tables. And I feel like an idiot even saying this. I feel like a moron who should not be telling the Young Bucks, of all people, how to do dives to the finish. But I thought this would have been more effective if they had taken turns, so we could have shot each one better and more close-up.
That's not a simultaneous dive, Vinny. Come on. You do that on the replay.
So JR even said they were both elbows because you couldn't see, even though one of them, Nick, did a senton. But regardless, I still love this match. I just thought most of the great stuff was in the first half of it.
I thought this match was great, and when this match ended, it was right after the top of the hour, and I thought, this is like the best hour of AEW that I have ever seen.
It was up there.
Like the best hour I've ever seen of AEW. I thought, if this fucking next hour is as good as the first hour, this is by far the best show, the best Dynamite I've ever seen. Now, the second hour was not quite as good as the first hour, but this was still one of the best Dynamites I've ever seen.
Yeah, I agree.
This first hour was so awesome.
Yes. Now, we're not done with the awesome stuff yet.
Oh, yeah, actually, this still counts as part of the first hour, I think.
What happens next? I don't know when it happened, but it still counts as awesome. Alex Marvez, he's in the hallway. He sees Lance Archer and Jake Roberts coming. He wants to interview them. So he jumps out and says, "Wait a minute, hey!" And Jake Roberts is appalled. Like, wait a minute, hey? That's how you address us? He tells this to Lance. Lance, of course, is angry. He grabs Marvez, drags him into the locker room. And for a second, I thought he may actually do something physical with Marvez, which would be a mistake. He needs to just be an interviewer. But he drags Marvez and the cameraman into the locker room. There's 4 dudes in there.
4 geeks.
And they were geeks. I take back everything I ever said about Lance Archer's pre-match violence being stupid and illogical. If that all had to be done to lead to this segment, it was worth it.
This was the funniest fucking beating I've ever seen.
I've never seen anything so funny and so violent at the same time.
As the beating is occurring, Jake Roberts is calmly cutting a promo in the background.
Yeah, he's cutting a Jake Roberts promo.
You can't see him because all you can see is Lance Archer.
Oh my God.
Taking geeks and throwing them up into the air so their heads go through the ceiling.
Yes.
Then they fall to the ground and the ceiling falls on them. It's like the Roadrunner.
Oh my God.
Takes another fucking guy and turns him upside down and throws him. If I showed, Paisley's big into the PJ Masks.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an episode where Romeo, who's the bad guy, he gets banana peels put on his feet, and he slides all over town and ends up falling into a trash can. She laughs so hard she cries at this guy going to the trash can. if I showed her this video of a actual living person picking up this little skinny geek and dropping him headfirst into a trash can? Oh, Lord. I can't say she'd die, but she would be apoplectic.
So it's a tremendous scene of carnage and destruction in a lighthearted comedic way. And
Except for the geeks.
That wasn't funny for them.
Wasn't lighthearted and comedic for those guys.
As you noted, Jake's calm, almost whispering promo for all of this just really put the whole thing over the top. It really made everything even better. And Lance came over and he whispered something to Marvez. I couldn't hear it. I didn't even care at that point. It was already perfect. Just perfect.
Then we have Ivelisse versus Diamante.
Yes.
And the match was fun. I don't think it was a great match.
No, they had a fun 6-minute TV match.
It was fine. It was 6 minutes. But when Ivelisse and Diamante came out, even though it could not hold a candle to anything else that was on this show, that's when it really hit me. And this is going to sound like a burial, but it's actually the highest praise. The show totally reminds me of Nitro. Now, when you hear that,
Brian.
you think of the Nitros that Vinny and I reviewed with Craig over the last few years. But you forget 1995 and 1996 and like the first half of 1997 when that show was fucking awesome. And we would watch that show in those early days, Vinny. We loved it.
That's true.
We loved it.
That is all true.
Because you never knew what was going to happen, and there were stars there, and there was high flying, and every match had a different style, and you'd see crazy shit that was like UFC 1. Remember how many times we talked about that?
That's all
And then
true.
eventually Goldberg showed up. It was just a fucking... Nitro was the greatest show for a very short period of time.
Then it was the worst.
Before it became total shit, okay? And that's the highest praise I can give AEW. It reminds me of the glory days of Nitro. Ivelisse and Diamante, for fuck's sake, where did they come from? But they come out, and they have a fun match, and the audience, it's not real fans, but, they're totally into it, and, Diamante wins in a surprise, but then she's getting a match with Hikaru Shida next week, so even that makes sense.
Yes,
and that followed Falls Count Anywhere, and the fucking thing with Lance Archer, and the whole, MJF and Griff Garrison squash match building up MJF for the title, Cody and Eddie Kingston. There's thumbtacks, there's promos. This fucking show was awesome.
Every segment was different than every segment that came before it or came after.
I loved it.
There's a little bit of everything. That's very important. So yeah, this match, in it, we saw that on this week, Breezango faces Everrise, and it's fun. What the hell's the point? Here's Diamante and Ivelisse, and it's fun, but neither's ever been on this show before. There's no, they just came off like two women who've been fighting each other all over the world. Now they're fighting AEW, and they had another fight, and Diamante won. But nothing was really done to get either character over. I don't know whether this was to cheer or boo either one of them, but it led to something because Diamante, after her big win, is being rewarded. They didn't clarify. I assume it's a non-title match.
It's a non-title match.
But hey, that's an opportunity that she gets because of this match.
But dude, they planted the seeds for this on last week's show in that promo that I thought sucked because I thought that Hikaru Shida was trying to avoid Nyla Rose, where Hikaru Shida said, I'm open to facing anybody.
That's true.
It doesn't matter who. If you want to show up and show me that you've got some fight in you, I'll face you.
Yes.
And the next week, two women show up.
They
got a lot of fucking fight in them.
Yes.
One of them wins, and now they're facing Shida.
That's all great. That's all fantastic. That's all fantastic. By the way, in the other portion of this match, we got a video message, I suppose, from Big Swole addressed to Brittany Baker. You think you can get away with everything, but actions have consequences. Sooner or later, your fragile ass is going to have to meet me in the ring. And Brittany, Swole don't mind waiting.
Good promo.
It was a good promo. They had a good match. Diamante won with a cradle out of nowhere, and we later learned she will get a chance against Hikaru Shida next week. Hangman Page versus Alan 5 Angels. Now, he was just 5 earlier. Here he's Alan Angels with the nickname 5. They should kind of all get on the same page with how they're going to name these Dark Order dudes. So Page is beating his ass for a while, and the Dark Order comes out to watch, and Page doesn't care. He keeps beating his ass. And 5 hangs in there for a bit, but eventually a pop-up powerbomb for Hangman Page gets the job done. Uno and Grayson are very frustrated their man has lost. And so Page calls out the Dark Order, but instead, out come Brody Lee and Colt Cabana, who had been lurking in the shadows until now. Brody makes his recruitment pitch. He says, I'm impressed, Hangman Page, by what you can do in this ring. I'm not impressed by your lack of friends or your tag team partner. The Dark Order can protect you, and we'll make sure you are never left alone. And Page outright says, thanks, but I'm not ready to join a cult right now. Don't tell Mr. Brody Lee that the Dark Order is a cult.
The fuck are they? I thought it was patently obvious this was a cult.
I'm not saying they're not. I'm saying don't tell him.
Well, I know that, but it was just funny that, like, of all the things to make him mad, you called him a cult.
He should have sneezed.
It's called the Dark Order. You know what I'm saying?
It's a club, Brian. A club.
It's not called Treehouse or something like that. It's called the Dark Order. The fucking leader used to be... I mean, the old leader was Evil Uno, but God forbid you call him a cult.
So, Brody says, Cowboy, called him Cowboy, you've made your bed. I hope you enjoy sleeping in it. He goes to the top of the stage. He gives Evil Uno the order. He takes Colt Cabana backstage with him. So the other Dark Order dudes go to the ring. Page attempts to fight 4 dudes. He loses. And this is proving, by the way, that Brody Lee is right. That Page has no friends or tag team partners to watch his back until FTR runs out with a cooler of beer to save their drinking buddy. They run wild. They make the save. The rescue has been made. The fight is done. Only then does Kenny Omega appear, Hangman's tag team partner. And he comes out just to make sure everything is okay. So next week on Dynamite, at long last, the Dark Order, they won a title shot like 2 months ago. And obviously this world is a crazy place in 2020, but they finally get their tag team match as the Dark Order versus Omega and Page. Hikaru Shida versus Diamante. Darby Allin and Jonathan Moxley versus Brian Cage and Ricky Starks in a Tornado tag team match. And Cody will have another open challenge. Main event, Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy versus Chris Jericho and Jake Hager.
Dude, add Luchasaurus. List of guys who've gotten their ears busted open over the last
I know,
month.
what is happening?
What's going on
in this
here?
company? It's really bizarre. This is really weird in that it felt, the first half of this match basically, it felt like their time got cut and they just went out and did their match in 5 minutes instead of 10. Like, there was a minute of shine and a minute of heat on Luchasaurus and a minute of Jungle Boy comeback. And eventually, they just cut Jungle Boy off and really got the heat. And it turns out they had plenty of time, which makes me wonder why they bothered with all this stuff at the beginning. But whatever.
Probably just to get all that exciting stuff out of the way before the break.
Well, if you're going to do that, just let Jurassic Express run wild for the whole time. So, long heat segment on Jungle Boy. Jericho brings the bat into the ring. Was it Larry is the name of the bat? Whatever he calls it. But Aubrey Evans won't let him use it. Leads to nothing. The match continues. Marco Stunt interferes in this match at least twice, maybe more. Proud and Powerful try to interfere to even the odds, but they're foiled. But then Serpentico, the masked luchador who has been in the crowd and never done a damn thing on Dynamite, he jumps up in the apron with a bat or something.
Floyd is the name of the bat.
Floyd. Yes. He levels Luchasaurus with Floyd, and Jericho follows with the code breaker, and he gets the win.
Dude, I've told this story 3 times now, but it was spoiled that Sammy Guevara returned before I'd seen this show.
Okay.
And when Serpentico hit the ring, I still was like, what in the fuck is going on? Excalibur goes, it's Serpentico. And I went, what?
Yes.
Serpentico? I was so baffled. I'm like, this show was so great. They've lost their fucking minds. And then he goes up.
I hope you figured out as he was in midair.
As soon as he got up to the top rope, I was like,
That-
oh, there we go.
Body language alone, actually, that's a good point.
It's fucking Sammy Guevara.
He goes up top and hits like the best shooting star press you ever saw. And he unmasked, and there's Sammy Guevara and his eminently punchable face. And it's just fantastic. So they're beating up Jurassic Express.
The best is to look on Jericho's face when he unmasks. Like Jericho's feigning that he can't believe that it's Sammy Guevara.
Yes.
He thought it was Serpentico.
My favorite in this melee is Jake Hager is putting the boots to Luchasaurus in the corner. And if you listen closely, because there's a lot going on, you can hear him shout, "You stupid dragon!"
Dragon.
So eventually, Orange Cassidy and the best friends clear the ring. And just before it fades to break, we are told there will be a big 10-man tag next week. The best friends, Orange Cassidy, Jungle Boy, and Luchasaurus versus the Inner Circle. So there you go. Another
Dude, that match should be awesome.
I suspect
Because
it
you
will
got
be quite fun.
Ortiz in there, you got Santana in there.
They
you
can
got
do a half hour without it to be very good.
Oh my God. There was a spot in this match with Jungle Boy where he gets hip tossed over the top rope
Oh, yeah.
and he hits a Hurricane Rana on Santana on the apron, sending him into Ortiz on the floor. That was so fucking awesome. This match was great. I loved this show.
Show was great.
Do we need to bother?
We both vote for AEW. I'll make the
AEW
formality
won,
here.
everybody. Holy shit.
Yeah.
This was, 10-8.
It was a great show. It was a great show.
It was a 10-8 round, but it was mostly just because of how great AEW was. It wasn't like NXT sucked.
Yeah, I liked most of NXT.
Although there are problems. There are definitely problems with NXT. And it's not just NXT. It's NXT, it's WWE, SmackDown, Raw. I mean, there's problems. But AEW is just... show's so good. And we got to see what they do next week. Big card. Of course, next week sports are back, so... I mean,
see
enjoy
how
this.
that goes.
Enjoy this while you can, everybody, because these shows may be getting smashed soon. But who knows? This young audience is very, very strong for AEW, so we'll see what happens. All right. I guess that's it. I guess we don't do finishes or music or anything.
No, we're just done.
All right, we're going to wrap it up.